not in the most ideal location to do a live, but still in a spot to do a YouTube live. And we have 49ers stuff to talk about as we do every single day. Today it was Nico Collins, the Houston Texans star young receiver who's coming off a 1,200 yard plus season. He has signed a 3-year contract extension with DeMeco Ryans and the Houston Texans. Nico Collins is now going to extend that third round rookie deal by 3 years. So they've got a year of runway, not a first round pick. So he's not somebody who was going to be eligible for a 5th-year option. And he is somebody that the Texans have decided to pay early. They decided to pay him, according to the initial numbers, $24 million per year. 3-year contract, $72.75 million extension with a maximum value of $75 million that includes $52 million in total guarantees. So as always, whenever these deals come out and we try to apply them to what that might mean for Brock Purdy's deal, we try to apply them to what that might mean for the 49ers salary cap situation within the larger receiver marketplace. I talk about the need to look at full guarantees. And we don't know full guarantees yet. We do know there's a $17 million signing bonus for Nico Collins. We do know the max value is $75 million, and we do know that the total guarantees are $52 million. Based on those parameters, I can surmise that the full guarantee amount is about $30 million or less, which for the 49ers is something they should view as less than they're going to have to pay Brandon Aiyuk. Now, Nico Collins only has one season under his belt of over 1,000 receiving yards. This was this past year, 1,297. So call it 1,300 yards, 109 targets, 80 receptions for Nico Collins. The previous 2 seasons had been 446 and 481 yards. Obviously, C.J. Stroud coming into the picture changed things. Are the Texans gambling here? A little bit. Of course, they're gambling a little. It's a $17 million signing bonus. Nobody's saying that's small. But I think that they're counting on Nico Collins and C.J. Stroud maintaining good chemistry. They're going to have Stephon Diggs as part of the team as well. So that should theoretically help open things up for Nico Collins even more. And if that happens, then the Texans feel that they're going to get a relative discount on this receiver moving forward. The simple math, of course, says 25 million APY. To me, that is much less relevant than the full guarantees. And I think to anybody who knows these contracts, it's much less relevant than the full guarantees. People are going to peddle this nonsense to you about, oh, Amon-Ra St. Brown, $30 million guaranteed. There's no way the 49ers can afford that. Oh, look, Nico Collins, that's really expensive, $24 million. Actually, Amon-Ra St. Brown, $30 million APY. No way the 49ers can afford that. Oh, Nico Collins, $24 million APY. That's bad news for Brandon Aiyuk and the 49ers. And it's just nonsense that doesn't have any actual contractual solid money to back it up. What really matters are the full guarantees. And the problem is that when agents initially release contract information, they're not going to put the full guarantees out there. They're going to put the total guarantees out there, in this case, $52 million. But total guarantees, that's only guaranteed for injury money. That is not fully guaranteed money. That is not the meat and potatoes of a contract. So it's important to look at the meat and potatoes of the contract. Somebody like Tyreek Hill has the most fully guaranteed money of any receiver in the NFL still, even a couple years after the trade and the signing by the Miami Dolphins at $52 million. Somebody like Amon-Ra St. Brown, even though it was $30 million APY, is at $34 million fully guaranteed money, which is significantly less than Tyreek Hill's $52 million. Somebody like Nico Collins has a $17 million signing bonus, so I know that's fully guaranteed. But what else is fully guaranteed? Well, maybe a good portion of his salary in this first year. So maybe the full guarantees come out to about the $34 million that we're talking for Amon-Ra St. Brown, but probably not much more. When we talk about Brandon Aiyuk, somebody who has only missed 1 game since 2020, who showed to be... I think I'm good again. You guys see me? Mike, are my lips synced right now? Is it talking fine? Somebody just tried to call me. It was my wife. I had to decline it. But if the audio is good, then we're set. Yeah, okay. Mike said we're good. All right. Sometimes when I get a phone call in the middle of these lives that I do on my phone when I'm on the road, my lips are out of sync. So we'll apologize to Margot later. She can watch the live now if she wants to hear me talk. Anyway, 49ers coverage rules the world, right? Going back to the full guaranteed money. So for somebody like Nico Collins, we don't have that total yet. And I would say that I would, estimate it's going to be in the 30s. It's definitely not going to be in the 50s. It's probably not going to be in the 40s at a deal worth about 75 million total. So somebody like Nico Collins, I see this as a deal that would be very, very relatively affordable for the 49ers if that were the Brandon Aiyuk number. Now, I think the Brandon Aiyuk's number is going to be higher than Nico Collins' number because he's produced 2 1,000-yard seasons. He hasn't only produced for 1 year. I don't think that the 49ers are going to be able to bet early on Brandon Aiyuk because he's already reached that 5th-year option season. Now is the time to pay him. Now is when it fits the standard of how 49ers have done deals like this in the past with that 1 5th-year option still remaining on the contract, the so-called lame duck season. So everything lines up here for Brandon Aiyuk to get a bigger deal than somebody like Nico Collins, and then somebody like Amon-Ra St. Brown. That being said, if you go to my Twitter, I talk about yards per route run. And Tyreek Hill leads the league in yards per route run this past season, 3.82. Remember that this is a great efficiency measure. PFF first debuted it. Any number, any average over 3 is considered elite in the NFL. So Tyreek Hill's at 3.82 yards per route run. That's elite. Nico Collins is at 3.1 yards per route run. That is also very, very good. Brandon Aiyuk, 3.01 yards per route run. He is the third and final receiver over 3 yards per route run. So it's Tyreek Hill, Nico Collins, and Brandon Aiyuk with Justin Jefferson at 2.91, CeeDee Lamb at 2.98, Jalen Waddle at 2.63, and Amon-Ra St. Brown tied at 2.63. So when you look at that ranking, and I know it's not the be-all end-all because yards per route run is also going to be dependent on quarterback play, but in general, this is one of the best analytical measures we have of receiving efficiency. When you look at that ranking, Nico Collins is a firm top 5 guy, top 3 guy. Brandon Aiyuk is a firm top 3 guy. When you look at the other efficiency measures, Brandon Aiyuk is obviously excellent as well. So that suggests that Brandon Aiyuk should be in the running for at least near top dollar. It also suggests that Nico Collins, based on his 2023 performance, should be in line for near top dollar. The difference is sample size. Nico Collins has only done it for 1 season, the 1,300-yard season we saw with C.J. Stroud last year. Brandon Aiyuk has done it for 2+. We see 2 1,000-yard seasons, plus I think that the end of that 2021 season, he really turned it up. So that's 2.5 really good seasons for Brandon Aiyuk, which is why I think he's going to command more money than somebody like Nico Collins, who signed early to get some guarantees. I mean, this is a 3rd-round pick who didn't have anything guaranteed before now, except for the relatively small signing bonus as a 3rd-round pick. So now Nico Collins, in exchange for the earlier financial security, signs a deal that it's only 3 years long, so he's going to be able to sign another one soon, but signs a deal that is much potentially smaller than it can be next year if he delivers another 1,000-yard season. Next year, if Nico Collins performs similarly as this year in terms of all the efficiency statistics, he'll be in line for a deal that Brandon Aiyuk is potentially in line for. And the numbers I put up on The Athletic, and everybody always asks me about APY, I think about 26 million APY, if that matters so much to you, but I think it's the fully guaranteed money that really matters with Brandon Aiyuk. And for that, I think it might take around 50 million APY, at least, in the 40s, over 45, but I think he might need to be near that number 1 I'm mixing up APY and fully guaranteed money. Near 50 million fully guaranteed. So we're talking about APY at 26, fully guaranteed money, I think around 50 million for Brandon Aiyuk, and I think that number is much, much more relevant and much more important to talk about. Nico Collins' number, in all certainty, is not going to be nearly that high. So I don't think that this deal really moves the needle all too far in Brandon Aiyuk's direction one way or the other. Now, what I will say is that receivers are making a lot of money, to the point where even somebody like Nico Collins, who only has 1 premier year under his belt, is able to net a deal worth 24 million APY. Whereas Christian McCaffrey, he's got a 16 million APY contract, but the 49ers have that subsidized by Carolina thanks to the trade and the fact that Carolina is paying most of the signing bonus. So the 49ers are sitting there paying Christian McCaffrey only 12 million a year. So just with the rudimentary surface level APY numbers, the 49ers are paying Christian McCaffrey half of what the Texans are about to pay Nico Collins, which just goes to show you the discrepancy between these positions. Running backs are underpaid, receivers might be a little bit overpaid. So the question is, will there be a correction? Will the NFL finally dissolve the salary cap numbers that are creating these artificial divisions between these positions? Because I think that they're outdated, right? At the running back position, you're having guys like Christian McCaffrey, he's the headlining example, playing a whole lot of receiver. Yet his salary is capped by the franchise tag of running backs. It's a really tough break for Christian McCaffrey. The 49ers might be generating a little bit of a comparative advantage with it by deciding to pay Christian McCaffrey instead of another receiver, although right now they're going to be paying receivers and running backs. I think that football is just very purely heading to multi-positional skill position pay offensively, or at least it should be heading that way. And at some point, the NFL is going to have to destruct these franchise tags that really individualize each position and make it unfair for running backs and maybe unfair for receivers too in the other direction. It seems that the receiver contracts may be a little bit too big relative to what they do out on the field. But at the end of the day, teams are going to continue paying receivers big money, over 20 million per year, maybe upwards of 30 million per year, if they feel that that receiving talent is not easily replaceable, at least immediately, through the NFL draft. So for example, if the 49ers believe that Brandon Aiyuk brings a skill set to the table that a rookie won't be able to immediately pick the slack off of as a first-year player in the NFL, if they're in win-now mode and they need to keep the line moving offensively, if they feel that, oh boy, we need to pay Brandon Aiyuk to maintain this level of production without a slip, without a learning curve for somebody new, well, that makes somebody like Brandon Aiyuk very, very valuable. That makes somebody like Deebo Samuel a couple years ago very, very valuable. And I think in terms of the 49ers system, you have Kyle Shanahan makes it a point. Every single receiver needs to know every single position, whether it be the X, the Z, the F. There's a big time cerebral challenge for every single receiver in the 49ers system. If you don't know all the positions, if you don't know how to block, if you're not tough enough to block, you're not going to get the football. So, I mean, you saw Brandon Aiyuk have to take some time to really become a consistently integral part of the 49ers offense. And it wasn't until the back half of that 2021 season that the target share grew into what, something resemblant of what we see today. So knowing that it takes time for receivers to truly find their way in Kyle Shanahan's offense, we can ascribe a certain value to the veterans who have already done the hard work of finding their way. I think there's a reason why the 49ers want to keep Brandon Aiyuk, want to keep Deebo Samuel, even though they just drafted Ricky Pearsall, because they realize that Ricky Pearsall could be a little bit of a project. I mean, he could contribute right away, but I don't think he's going to be an A-lister in his first season, given all that he has to learn. For that reason, maintaining the roster presence of Deebo Samuel, maintaining the roster presence of Brandon Aiyuk comes with very, very big value to the 49ers. And it's going to be value that's greater than the deal that Nico Collins just got from the Houston Texans. Even though Nico Collins is extremely, extremely efficient, he's only done it for a year so far at that 1,000-yard level. Brandon Aiyuk has done it for 2+ with the 49ers. And he's entering that 5th-year option season as well, which, adds a little bit higher of a financial tether to the negotiations than Nico Collins and his rookie deal, which he only had that 4th year on there at a contract of maybe $1 million and change in his 4th year. Meanwhile, Brandon Aiyuk, he's got $14.1 million in this final year. So that acts as a negotiating tether, and it's obviously much higher than Nico Collins' rookie deal. So I stay true to my prediction. I think for Brandon Aiyuk, the 49ers, if APY is important to you, it's going to be somewhere between 25 and 30. But I think the fully guaranteed money is what's truly important. And I think if and when these two sides finally do reach a deal, then it's going to probably have to be somewhere near that $50 million fully guaranteed for it to make sense for both Brandon Aiyuk and the 49ers, who can stretch that fully guaranteed money out with a signing bonus and an option bonus over even more than 5 years if they double up on the signing and the option bonus. They are in good salary cap position to continue growing the core of their team. They just have to make sure that they dedicate the money to players who have durability. That, if guaranteed money is going in a certain direction and it's going to obviously cause the cap hits to go up at some point, it better be invested in durability. Availability is the best ability, and I think that Brandon Aiyuk has shown that he has that. He hasn't missed a single game since the 2020 season. That was his rookie year. All right, everybody hit that like button. I have a few minutes here before I have to go out to dinner to answer some questions. Obviously on the road right now. Tomorrow, OTAs for the 49ers. I will be present. I will be flying out there. I will be in the Bay Area. I'll be at minicamp. We're going to be eating a lot of good food in San Francisco. We'll be soaking up the Bay Area probably for the last time before training camp. Then I cleanse my palate. Then I get out of the Bay Area for a little bit of time. So ask some good questions. I see Eric Gomes saying that in all caps. And I'm ready to answer them. Go ahead, guys. I'm reading off my phone, so the questions have to come in so I could actually read them. I'm not looking at my computer. Can't look back. Am I a good tipper? I think I'm a good tipper. I was just at a bar right now. I think I tipped well. I'm not an exorbitant tipper. I'm not going to give 60%. But yeah, give a solid tip, especially if the service is good. You know, in some countries, they don't tip. You'll go through a lot of Europe and they don't tip out there. Italy, countries like that. I don't think England tips. In the Czech Republic, they do, but it's much smaller than here. Somebody asked about Pearsall and punt returns. Do I think that he's going to do punt returns? I think he's definitely a contender for punt returns. Ricky Pearsall, I mean, he's a smooth operator, and the key for punt returns is to make sure that you field the football cleanly, which is why you want to raise the floor at punt returns before you worry about raising the ceiling. Somebody like Trent Taylor being on the roster, that raises the floor. He didn't muff a single punt in his time with the 49ers. Steve asks, how long did it take for a wide receiver to fully understand Kyle's offense? Well, for Brandon Aiyuk, I think that it took over a year to really, really get into the flow of things. That was the main thing. It's about buy-in, understanding, and when you talk about understanding every single position, that's not just knowing your X receiver position. You got to know the Z, you've got to know the F, you've got to know all the different variations. That's really challenging for a receiver coming out of college. But on top of that, you also have to be mentally wired to buy in, blocking-wise. Buy in when the football is not coming to you at every single one of those positions. So this can take a year plus, which is why I think it's really, really smart that the 49ers have given themselves full runway with somebody like Ricky Pearsall. You have Deebo Samuel and Brandon Aiyuk on the roster, both under contract for at least one more season. I think that's going to be lengthened as soon as Aiyuk signs his deal. So you'll have them under contract, both of those veterans, for at least 2 more seasons. I know that Jennings is only this season as soon as he signs the RFA tender, if that's what ends up happening. But still, you've got a little bit of runway for a rookie like Ricky Pearsall to where that he doesn't have to be the guy immediately. Do I think that Dominic Pooney starts for the 49ers this season? Not due to injury. I think it's really possible, and I think there's a chance that both guard positions might be up for grabs if John Feliciano somehow, some way ends up at center instead of Jake Brendel, which for OTAs is going to be the case. You're going to have, obviously, right guard up for grabs because John Feliciano wouldn't be there anymore, so that's Spencer Burford and company competing with Dominic Pooney. But I wouldn't, the 49ers want to host competitions everywhere. And Aaron Banks is entering his final year. It's a lame duck season for Aaron Banks. Left guard needs to be open for a competition as well. Pooney is going to start working as a guard, not as a tackle. So a lot of people wonder, is Colton McKivitz's spot open? I think that until Pooney starts working at tackle, that's not a realistic proposition. But the fact that he can play all 5 positions and he played at that tackle position in college, I do think opens that possibility in the future. What do I want to see at OTAs this week? I want to see more Brock Purdy off-schedule plays. I mean, some of what we saw from Purdy was absolutely epic last week, where he rolls far to his left, flips his hips, finds Trent Taylor deep across the field. I think the 49ers are going to run more 11-on-11 stuff. They did a lot of 7s last week, and that's not that exciting, right? You want to see more than 7-on-7 stuff. You want to see the pass rush, even if it's no pads, getting after Brock Purdy. You want to be able to see him going off schedule to Ricky Pearsall, him working with Deebo Samuel and company, some of the tight ends, you want to see that. I just want to see more of the offense working in that cohesive way, an actual 11-on-11 football. Who do I see filling in at safety for the 49ers? Well, I'll just kind of read off the safety depth chart to you right now. Obviously, Jair Brown, Talanoa Hufanga, they hope that he's going to be back for week 1. They've got George Odom, who is, I think, a dependable veteran reserve in there. And then obviously Malik Mustafa. Malik Mustafa out of Wake Forest, really, really hard hitter. Good tackler, shorter than the typical safety, but he's built like a mini linebacker. He can hit, he can blitz, and I thought that he covered fine in Wake Forest. Now, how quickly he picks up the NFL coverage concepts, how quickly he develops a good first step to match with the faster speed of the NFL, that's going to determine how often the 49ers can trust Malik Mustafa on the field. But I can tell you what, this is a rookie that they really believe in, and they think that he's got the versatile skill set to play all over the field. Being Butterfly thinks the 49ers are a better overall team heading into the 2024 season. Listen, they had the number 1 overall offense last year, and their defense sunk to like number 10 to 12. Their run defense was like number 26. So they were statistically the best team in football, even though only one half of the football was doing the heavy lifting. In 2022, they had top 5 units in offense and defense. In 2023, the offense got better, but the defense regressed. So if you believe the defense has talent enough to get back into the top 5 and the offense maintains, and I think the offense can get better because they have Ricky Pearsall now, then yeah, I think that their 49ers can be better than they were in 2024. And you also have to figure out that special teams unit, new kick return rules. They lost Ray McLeod to return punts, but I do think that they're trying to figure that out with Ricky Pearsall and company. Eric Gomes says the only way to go up for the 49ers only way to go for the 49ers defense is up. Technically, they can still slide further, but I think that the setup they have now with Nick Sorensen bringing it back to basics and Brandon Staley trying to infuse some new ideas, I think they're better set up for that to work this year than they were with Steve Wilks last year. I wrote so much at this time last year about how big of a roll of the dice the whole Steve Wilks thing was because they were trying to thread a needle by bringing in some of the new ideas with Steve Wilks, and it ultimately didn't work out, didn't jive the way Kyle Shanahan wanted it to. So he went back to another ambitious plan, but one that is a little bit more tethered to what the 49ers have been doing before with Nick Sorensen as the defensive coordinator. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. It's been a fun 22 minutes. This is live from a hotel room. As you can see, haven't been able to fully plug in the studio. That's because I'm on the run. All these days, I'm on the move at all times, but I will always find a time to get one of these lives in to talk the 49ers. This one talking about that contract situation with Nico Collins and how it might affect the 49ers, who seem to still be in really good salary cap shape. All right, I will talk to you guys very soon.